if we can replicate that in the knockouts, got a great chance, I think, of going deep in the compo.
Just watching him develop has been really interesting because he sort of came in quite spectacularly, got an injury. When he was out, Lewis-Skelly sort of went up the escalator and he must have been sitting there thinking, let me go out there and show everybody.
Yeah, he is a phenomenal talent and he's given Mikel Arteta a little bit of food for thought, I think, ahead of Manchester City. I would like Feyenoord, personally, because Feyenoord can't think.
When Michael Oliver got that game, how many of us felt something could happen here? We all felt it.
Michael Oliver's the same referee and has managed to come with two completely separate incidents where he's gotten, for me, the wrong way round. So, I mean, justice did prevail.
Ollie Watkins is a player that would help Arsenal, it'd enhance Arsenal's chances. I'll be staggered if Arsenal don't sign forward and a really good high-profile forward.
An eventful week for Arsenal and our fans off the pitch, but on the pitch, it's job done with 2 away wins. So joining me today are former Premier League striker Darren Bent, Arsenal Vision podcaster Clive Palmer, and former Arsenal player and turned match analyst Adrian Clarke. So, guys, there's a lot has been going on this week, from Lewis-Skelly's red card to the Ollie Watkins bid. But most importantly, Arsenal have won 2 games of football. It's a good week, isn't it, Darren?
Yeah, really good week. Positive, finally. I mean, it almost feels like 3 wins, as you said there. A couple of results on the pitch. The Lewis-Skelly red card, the overturned of that. That feels like another win. But yeah, it's nice to have a positive week. I mean, too much is always circulating around Arsenal, whether it be performances, decisions going against Arsenal. But finally, this week, it feels like a calmer week. I don't know if Clive would agree with a calmer, but...
Oh, don't worry. We're going to get into everything and everyone's feelings and emotions, especially Clive's. But obviously, let's get straight into last night then. It's a heavily rotated side, got the win in Girona. So it's a job well done.
Yeah, it is. You look at the campaign as a whole, yeah, it does look pretty good, doesn't it? I think it's 6 wins, out of the 8. The schedule was tough, though, you know. It's not like the old Champions League where you're a pot 1, pot 2 club and you just have one really tough game. You need to get 4 points out of 6 in that. And the rest you can just, like, rotate. It's nice and relaxed. Atalanta away, Inter away, Sporting away, PSG at home. These are, like, big games, you know. And I think it's drained us a bit, you know. If it drained my pocket, it's drained us a bit. And maybe that's something that we need to plan for next year, the impact of the schedule, particularly into January. I think it's really been tough.
Yeah, I think it would have done us good, though. We've played some good opposition all the way through. You know, our young players have been tested themselves against other good players that they're likely to meet in the knockouts. So I think it's been a great run. I've loved the defensive stability. The goal against Girona, the mess that it was, we'll get to that shortly, I'm sure, but that was the first goal Arsenal conceded in open play in the entire league phase of the Champions League. We've got the best expected goals against of all 36 teams. So I think there are a lot of positives to take from the group phase. And it will, if we can replicate that in the knockouts, got a great chance, I think, of going deep in the compo.
I think next year as well, Arsenal will be better. Arsenal will be in the Champions League next year for sure. But I think no one knew how to kind of navigate this new format. No one quite knew how many points it was going to take to get automatic qualification. And I think Arsenal went about their business, as Clive was saying there. Some tough games in this Champions League format. But Arsenal have gone through it. They've looked really solid. They've had injuries to deal with. They've had rotation, a lack of form at times, but they've managed to find a way to get through. And as I said, now it's almost, you're almost playing the guessing game, I felt, in this Champions League. So I'm still trying to work out, well, who could Arsenal play if they finish here? And it's so many moving parts. But as I said, I think every team in the Champions League next year will, I won't say perform better, but they'll understand more the logistics and how they plan their route as to previous years.
So what did you make specifically of last night's game then?
Yeah, I thought it was calm to a point. I mean, Neto, the goalkeeper, I know he hasn't played for a while, but at first he had me a little bit like, oh my God, like, what's happening there? I was a little bit on edge with that. I thought he settled down a little bit. I know he conceded a crazy goal. I don't know where he found himself getting caught out in that area. But other than that, even when Arsenal went 1-0 down, I still didn't feel like there was going to be that much of a struggle. I just felt it was a matter of time of them getting that goal. And once they got that goal, I could only see one winner. But again, I wouldn't say they were spectacular, but they just did the job and got the job done.
So then let's go straight in and talk about Ethan Nwaneri. Do we think that his performance shows us that we have a Saka replacement for the rest of the season then, or not?
We have a Saka alternative. Right? I'm not sure Saka is easily replaceable. But you do have somebody that receives the ball in a similar way, comes inside his left foot, and so those sort of movements we're sort of used to. Just watching him develop has been really interesting because he sort of came in quite spectacularly, got an injury. When he was out, Miles Lewis-Skelly sort of went up the escalator, and he must have been sitting there thinking, let me go out there and show everybody. And, but yeah, some of the details in his game last night were superb. I mean, he has to work his first touch, isn't he, Adrian?
He struggles, doesn't he?
me.
I mean, yeah, the academy has done its job. Actually, they probably didn't need to do much work with Ethan Nwaneri. He's so naturally gifted, isn't he, Clive? It's crazy. I don't think we appreciate how hard it is for a 17, 18-year-old to be in the Champions League and to thrive and look as good as he does. That is fast becoming his trademark, by the way, isn't it? That left foot whip into the far corner. Someone else we've already mentioned, Bukayo Saka's pretty good at that as well. So, yeah, he is a phenomenal talent, and he's given Mikel Arteta a little bit of food for thought, I think, ahead of Manchester City, because that position needs filling, and I actually tend to think that he might get the nod now on the back of that performance, that goal for the City game, and maybe Arsenal might want to switch Martinelli over to the other side up against Matheus Nunes, who's not really a proper right back. So that might not happen, but it would certainly be in Mikel Arteta's mind, I think.
Darren, you're nodding away.
No, I agree with what the gentleman are saying here. I agree with...
Gentlemen?
Yeah, gentlemen. Yeah, two gentlemen.
Who's that?
You seem surprised he said gentlemen. Okay.
Gentlemen, yeah, I just think, yeah, he was outstanding last night. I think it says a lot. I mean, they almost force-feed him the ball because they trust him that much. And I think when you're a young player going to a side like Arsenal, I think trust is a big thing. And I think even the decision-making, there was one moment just before he scored the goal where he could have fed Trossard, but he didn't. He opted for the shot, and Trossard had maybe a little moan at him, and I found myself shouting at the TV saying, well, don't have a go at him. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I found myself screaming at the TV, but don't have a go at him. I just think he has got all the ability to go to the very, very top. He looks like he's mature, he's level-headed, he doesn't get carried away. But as I said, his decision-making yesterday, I thought he was outstanding. And I think he's got that rare ability where he can take the ball in tight quarters, tight proximity, but also if you give it to him in space, he's not scared to go 1v1 at the fullback as well. And as Adrian was saying there, I think surely if you're looking at the game at the weekend, you're looking at him thinking he plays with that no fear as well. And I think a lot of young players, sometimes they get to that stage and freeze a little bit and they take the safe option. I don't think that's in his game. No,
Saka hit you between the eyes when he first came on the scene because of his decision-making. And he was spot on with, I think, 95% of what he did. And the quality of his execution and the calmness of his sort of temperament just wasn't normal. And, just a few years later, here we are again with a player that is very, very unusual. For a player of that age, they're normally much more erratic.
Yeah.
But Saka and Nwaneri have got something very special. And I can't wait to see them both playing the same team together on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's just I was just smiling thinking about his game last night. I mean, on the goal, Odegaard wraps it into it. Just wraps it in. And I'm a big believer in that players know players best. And the fact he did that, he knew he could deal with it. And then once he dealt with the ball, the opposition look at him and go, crikey, he's got that ball right where he wants it. What do? They freeze. They do it automatically. I don't want to be embarrassed by him. And he does his bit and it's in the back of the net. And so his technical ability is stunning. And when he grows up, to be a man, what are we going to see? It's going to be great.
Into a fine gentleman like you all. So now let's move on to Raheem Sterling. Another bad night for him.
I feel for Raheem, I do feel for him because when they brought him in, I was more optimistic than anything, thinking I hope it goes well for him because there's no doubt he's had a sensational career. He's been at the very, very top. But things are just not working for him. And when he put the ball down for the penalty, I knew he was going to miss it. I mean, there was everything about it. I was sitting with my little boy watching the game, and I said to him, I know exactly where he's going to put the penalty. Yep. Because when me being a former penalty taker, when you're lacking confidence, you opt to go for the safe option. And the safe option, if you're a right footer, is always the goalkeeper's left. Because it's like a straight side foot because you think, right, I don't want to whip it too much because I might miss the target by going the other way. That straight leg side foot, I was always a firm believer you can never put enough power in it when you go that way. And his one looked that way, and it was quite a comfortable save in the end. But it was just one of those where I wasn't that surprised when he missed it.
Yeah. can I just say, I'm concerned about him a little bit, right? He's struggling, he's working through his game. There were periods in earlier games I felt he hid in games. On the left, he wasn't hiding. Did get the start. I think he suits the left-hand side better, but we've got a lot of left cover, haven't we? So there's a crowd scene on the left-hand side for Arsenal. So, but I thought he's really trying. He's really trying to affect the game, but you can literally see him fighting for it out there. One thing good, one thing bad. My view is, what is he for us? He's probably going to be a deep block killer last 20 in a game. That's what we're going to have to use him for. Yeah. And while he's here, that's his game state. And when Saka comes back, that's what he'll be, you know? So in the meantime, we just got to support him, really, because he ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, I'm so pleased you said that, because I've been thinking the same with him. I think he plays a bit wide for us when he starts. When I think about Raheem Sterling's career and when he's made the most impact, for City especially, it was arriving in the box as a second centre-forward to tuck home finishes, right?
Yeah.
Inside the box. He's brilliant at it. Yeah. But we're not really seeing him getting into those positions too often. So I think, as a sub, when you need a goal, you're looking. You're not going to put two up front, but you kind of want two strikers on the pitch. I think that is the moment to maybe unleash him. But I've got to say, because he hasn't taken those opportunities, his opportunities might be a little bit limited between now and the end of the season. It just hasn't happened for him. On that penalty, he'd missed 2 of his last 7, and I just think that anyone that's missed 2 of their last 7 pens shouldn't be on pens. Really, I think that was a bit of a bad decision and a risk with just the 1 goal advantage. So, yeah, I think if we had that again, someone else really should have stepped up to take it instead, because that sort of pep-up pen, as you call it, backfired, didn't it?
Yeah.
Who do you think should have taken it?
Odegaard or Havertz, you know, just bury the game, put it to bed, because what happened was they equalised just shortly after that, and then of course it got disallowed. But if that goal had been stood and there was a fraction in it, then Arsenal would have finished 5th or 6th, which would have meant they'd have faced Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Man City much earlier in the competition. So it's actually quite an important moment, and I was surprised that they gave it to Sterling.
So speaking of that, we have our possible opponents. So who do you fancy your chances against for the last 16? AC Milan, PSV, Feyenoord or Juventus?
I would like Feyenoord, personally, because Feyenoord can't defend. Feyenoord, on their day, are great. They beat Bayern Munich 3-0 on the previous match week. So they're dangerous opponents, but they lost 6-1 to Lille on the final round of games. And most of their matches during the Champions League, they've conceded 2, 3, 4. You know, they've let in a lot of goals. I think that is possibly the easiest of the 3. You probably want either of the Dutch sides.
Yeah, that's where
I think that's where you're probably at. But I wouldn't be scared of either Italian side. If I had to pick between the Italians, I'd probably go with Juventus. So I think they're in worse shape than AC Milan, who have got some pretty dangerous players.
I think AC Milan have got Leao in their team, and I quite like him. I don't want to see him too closely. PSV got that guy, Bakayoko. Remember we played against a couple of years ago? I quite liked him. He's a bit raw still, and the price in his head is a little bit high, but he looks got a lot of potential. I think when we played, he played against Kivior left back, remember? Yeah. And he was really, really good. And so they're good teams everywhere. So I agree with Adrian. One of the Dutch teams suits me. The Italians tend to know what to do, don't they, in this competition? So they've got a good heritage and history. So, yeah, one of the Dutch teams.
Yeah, I'd go Feyenoord as well. I just think defensively as well, Italian clubs always quite hard to break down. Arsenal sometimes struggle to break down that low block. And that's what Italian sides do really, really well. And as Clive was saying there, Rafael Leao, I don't want any part of that. So, yeah, I'd probably go Feyenoord.
Well, we will find out very soon, won't we? So now let's talk about the weekend and the story that evolved the entire week. We're going to talk about the red card for Lewis-Skelly, then the reaction to the red card, and then the reaction to the reaction. It's been a great week for Arsenal fans, hasn't it?
It's been a great week for the media. Yeah. They've had all the engagement that they need. Everyone's having their say. It's such an interesting moment because I think that football has its own context around it, and that decision looked out of step with the game. There was barely any fouls in the game before that foul. It wasn't a game you need to manage by the referee. You have a foul just outside of their box, and you manage to find a red card for it. you've got to be looking for that, for me. And then to see VAR double down on it, it just creates something that may not be there, but it feels like it's there, you know? The Michael Oliver situation, whether the people in the comments are going to say we're deluded Arsenal fans and we should be worried about these sort of things. But honestly, when Michael Oliver got that game, how many of us felt something could happen here? Yeah. We all felt it, right? So that shouldn't be the case for many, many reasons. But he did it again. He found something unique. He set a precedent, and the refereeing organisation then doubled down on him. There was a moment there when they could have just said, you know what, we made a mistake, and let's just own it. But they decided to double down there, and that just creates a them and us. And that them and us is not healthy for the game. You know, we're Arsenal people, right? But we're football people as well, right? It's not healthy for the game that there's so much anger towards an organisation who also love the game, by the way, referees do, and we can't play without them. And I think they've misread the room from a PR perspective, and I think they got it completely wrong.
Do you know what, for me, it's one of the worst decisions because some people have made that, is it the worst decision, is not. When I look at the game as a whole, and Clive was touching on it there, I think one of the reasons why I couldn't get my head around the decision, I mean, it wasn't a red card, it's a yellow card, it's cynical, hands up, is that in the same game, Gomez's challenge is a straight red, is awful. Like, it's an awful challenge. It's high, it's reckless, it could have done some serious injury, right? But the fact that they gave a second yellow for that, that's where my head was flying all over the place. Because I was like, well, hold on. How is Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's just cynical, tripped someone, is a straight red, but someone is, I wouldn't say career-threatening, but it's dangerous challenge, is only a yellow. That's where my head, and that's why I had to put the two situations not in isolation, together, because Michael Oliver's the same referee and has managed to come with two completely separate incidents where he's gotten, for me, the wrong way round. So, I mean, justice did prevail. He's obviously not been suspended. They've overturned that now, and he's available to play at the weekend. But I just think that's where referees don't help themselves as well. And I do think there is something in the fact that he's a senior referee, and I think it was Darren English, who's up at the PA at Stockley Park, didn't want to overturn it because it's an uncomfortable situation for him, because how do you overturn someone who's your superior, if that makes sense, like your superior? How can he turn around and go, no, I think you've made a mistake? He's obviously going to back him.
Well, this is why it has to change. Yeah. For me, VAR, and I've said this actually from the outset, there should be specialist VAR team that aren't associated with the refereeing team. For that reason, they've got to detach themselves. Because for me, Darren England makes... his mistake is worse than Michael Oliver's. Michael Oliver's rash. And Clive says he's looking for it. Who knows? But it's a bad call. Darren England is the one that can see all the replays we can see, and I would say that 98% of people, at least, would have said that was never, ever, ever a red card. So for Darren England to be one of that 2% just doesn't make sense to me. You have to think that he was a little bit worried about overruling the senior ref in this country, Michael Oliver, and that's not a healthy situation. I just think, and let's be honest as well, it also, this reinforces the debate around VAR, full stop. Should it be stripped back a lot or go altogether? My view is that football would be better without it. Because without VAR, you're screaming that there's an injustice there, but you're far less angry. Yeah. Far less angry than you are when you've had Darren England's eyes on it and he's just doubled down on it. So, yeah, for me, it's just a reminder of the problems that VAR bring.
Do you know, I just wonder as well, Adrian, with Darren England, if in that situation there, because Michael Oliver is his superior, does he go to the monitor looking for something, for a reason to agree with the decision, rather than going into it kind of level-headed, thinking, right, let me take kind of Michael Oliver's decision out of it. Let me go in it my own two eyes and go, right, what do I feel? I almost feel like he's going into it subjectively looking for a reason to agree with Michael Oliver, rather than going there clear-headed thinking, I'm going to come to my own decision. It's almost, I won't say he's forced in one direction, but it's certainly not level. He's certainly going there, caution on the side of, let me agree with Michael Oliver, rather than going, I need to take his decision out of it.
Clive?
Well,
I've got to...
For me, it's highlighted the organisational, cultural issues at the PGMOL. I'm sorry, it has. It's revealed them in a way which they didn't need to be revealed. I think we are all reasonable people, apart from when it involves our own club, right? But we accept we have biases. We do. We have biases. But for me, you have an opportunity and they didn't take it. Organisationally, the culture of that refereeing organisation is not what it could be and what it should be. They should be looking at ways to come closer to the game, to really engage with people, to humanise themselves, not to make themselves feel elitist, that they can never be wrong. We can all be wrong. If you watch any game of football that these two played in, I'm sure their first touches were a little bit off on occasion, right? and that's the way it goes. We're all wrong. When we're analysing games, we get things wrong. We don't emphasise something properly enough. Just humanise themselves. You know, so now we've got a situation where there are tens of millions of Arsenal fans around the world feeling upset about this decision. Way more upset than they should be. You know, and Adrian's absolutely right. The technology's there to support the referee, not to protect him. And that's where it's wrong. And so if you're not going to use it appropriately, then either reduce it or remove it, and let's have a human game again.
So speaking of Arsenal fans, Clive, I'm going to hand this one to you. Gary Neville told Jamie Carragher on a podcast that the Arsenal fans are acting entitled. Do you think we're being gaslit?
So we are, and we have to accept it. And no one cares about our feelings, right? So let's just get that. Let's just get that out there, right? So I think what's upset our Northwestern media friends is the whole world was upset. Arsenal Football Club barely said a word, by the way. The players barely said a word. They've let everything happen around them. They haven't said a word. So this is not on us. This is on everybody else and their reaction to it. So now they are reacting to the reacting, Talia. And I think that is an issue. So at the moment, we have now got this label that we are strange about how we look at referee decisions. I'm hopeful that Miles doesn't have a label, as somebody has to carry that red card with him. He's only had 6 or so starts, Adrian, so I think, why has he got that label for just tripping somebody up, you know? And so it's really unfair on that side of things. In this case, and by the way, in the past, we have been vociferous. In this case, we haven't said a word as a club. So why are we wearing this? They've made a mistake. The reaction has been global, not just an Arsenal reaction. And now we've had this on our play, which I think is really unfair.
Yeah. What should be the discussion point moving forward, rather than how Arsenal fans are reacting, etc., is 98% of football fans throughout the world, people that love the game, do not think that is anywhere close to being a red card. Yet the PGMOL, the refs in this country, think it is. That's the problem. So what they should be doing is thinking about the people, because they don't own the game. We all own the game. It's our game. And if 98% of people think that that's never, ever a red card, they need to take that on board, understand it, talk to people about it, and make sure that they never give another red card for something like that again, rather than screaming that they're right, we're wrong.
Do you think we'd see another red card for that, something like that again?
I think it'd take a brave ref to give it, given the fallout. But look, there's a number of instances we've seen with Arsenal, you know, this season, and obviously with Oliver previously with the Martinelli double yellow at Molineux a couple of years ago. You know, we've never seen anything like that since either, have we? So it's, you know, Arsenal have been unfortunate this season, but I don't think this is about Arsenal. I think this is about the standard of refereeing and the issues between the referees and the VAR controllers. You know, it's got to be better.
Yeah, I can't stop thinking about it.
I can just see his brain ticking the whole time.
It's really frustrating. We had a great away win at the weekend, and I barely thought about it. You know, I barely thought about it. And at the moment, what's happening in the world, right? So Liverpool at the top of the league. Everyone thinks Arsenal are moaning because we're not at the top of the league. Now City have had an indifferent season. For me, and for many Arsenal fans, there are 4 red cards this year. I could debate every single one of them, easily. And they've cost us real points. We'd be a lot closer. Am I frustrated with that? I am. Is it really making me angry? No. It's making me concerned that we seem to be the ones that seem to be setting the precedents with some of these red cards. And I just feel it's really, really strange. And so the data's there on these referees. The data's there. You go look at it if you want to. Is the data there when it comes to why do we choose certain referees for certain games? What is the process to choose a referee for a game? How transparent is that? When people say Michael Ober's our best referee, how do we know that? Where are the measures? Is he the most experienced referee? Yes, he is. He's in the elite section. Why is he there? What has happened in recent games? You can't just rock up to places and then implant yourself on a game and expect to walk away scot-free. It's just not right. There are so many people invested within the club and within the watching world about what happens on the pitch. There needs to be a lot more thought before you reduce a team to 10 men for just minor infractions.
I feel like that just needs a mic drop.
Pause.
Infuriated.
Yeah.
10 men mean something in the modern game now. Yeah. Coaches are too good.
Yeah, there needs to be a real... There should be less of a... I don't know how to phrase it. Getting sent off, it's got to be a higher bar than what we've seen at times this season.
So then let's just hope we don't have to talk about referees and red cards again for the rest of this season. With the transfer deadline closing on Monday night, plenty of Arsenal fans' patience is being tested. A 60 million bid was apparently rejected yesterday for Ollie Watkins. So, Darren, John Duran is on his way to Saudi. Does this kill a deal for Watkins?
I mean, I don't think Villa were ever going to sell him in regardless, and certainly not for 60 million. That was never, ever going to happen. Am I surprised John Duran is going to Saudi? Yes and no. I'm not surprised because of finances. That has to play a huge part. I mean, when you're talking about the sums of money that they're talking about, you can't turn a blind eye to that. It's going to affect every single player, regardless what level they're at. I just think there's a lot of potential for him. He's only 21 years old. I think even if Arsenal looked at that, could have been the right profile. I'm just not maybe sure about his makeup, maybe his mannerisms, because I think if you're that good of a striker, which he clearly is, you've seen it this season with some of the finishes, the goal against Bayern Munich, these magical moments, I think a club would fight tooth and nail and say, no, you're not leaving regardless. The fact that they've almost just eased him out the door tells me maybe that there's something about his character that Nwaneri didn't quite like. And with 60 million for Watkins, I really like him. I'm not sure he fits the profile for Arsenal. 29 years old as well. Mikel Arteta doesn't usually do that. And also, yes, he's an out-and-out centre-forward, and Arsenal need that. But if you look at terms of big chances missed, certainly in the Premier League, he's top of that pile. And it surprised me that did, because Kai Havertz is like, we kind of say, oh, Kai Havertz keeps missing all these chances. I think he's like 6th or 7th on that list. I think he's got around 14. Watkins is top. So you look at that and you start to go, that was surprising. I didn't expect that. But still, I just think it was a non-starter. The moment I heard that Arsenal bid 60 million, for starters, it's the 29th of the month as well. So that leaves you a really small window. So there's no real negotiation period. And Villa were never going to sell. So if I'm honest, I'm not quite sure. Maybe Clive will have a little bit more insight as to why Arsenal would put the bid in at this time.
Yeah, I've got thoughts. I think in the league, centre-forwards are becoming out of fashion, right? So in the league, we've got Haaland, we've got Isak. You're probably thinking for pure centre-forwards, Watkins is right there. So Arsenal would like Isak, well, so will half of the world, right? So a very difficult one to get. Haaland's sorted out for the next 9 years. So Watkins is the sort of the next one in line. And given the fact they had two forwards, they couldn't coexist together, it's Arsenal go a bid for one and give Villa a choice. What do you want to do? Sell Duran or sell Watkins? Now, that's one side of things. Then I have this other thing in the back of my mind. We have Saka, Gabriel, Saliba, major players in this club, coming up to contract renewals in about a year or so's time. Got Declan Rice, got Odegaard, major players that we've invested in. I look at them and I think, OK, if I'm their manager, I have to invest in their careers. Am I going to give them, what am I going to give them as a forward? Is it somebody experienced who can deliver now? Or is it somebody we have to build? Now, I'm not saying which one is right or wrong, but you can see the logic behind going for a ready-made forward who can put the ball in the back of the net, although Darren's done me with those, with those conversion numbers. But I watched him in the 2-2 game the other day, Adrian. I'm sure you were there. I thought his positioning was excellent. The way he hid on people's shoulders, on the back of people, always ready to challenge them. I was actually quite surprised how good he was. And so I'm 50-50 on it.
I think he's... I slightly disagree with Darren. I get that on the profile of the age, but I think stylistically, I think he's brilliant for Arsenal because he's got great movement. Yeah. And what he also offers that Kai Havertz struggles with is penetration with those runs. He's quick. He runs off the last shoulder. And, you know, I'm just picturing some through balls from Martin Odegaard and co, looking for him in behind. I think it could do some serious damage. It's a signing for now. It's a signing for the next 18 months, 2.5 seasons max, really. But as footballers, as Clive says, it's all about her now. You know, these guys who aren't under contract for very long, they're not interested in what happens in 5 years. They want to win stuff now. And Ollie Watkins is a player that would help Arsenal, it'd enhance Arsenal's chances of winning things this season and next season for sure. It's just a pity that the timing of this comes around when Duran seemingly has packed his suitcase already. I just can't see a scenario where Villa sell both, unfortunately, no matter what we propose. So if I was Villa, by the way, I would take the money for Watkins and keep Duran, because his value will only grow and Watkins will only diminish. But Darren is bang on. The Unai Emery clearly sees something in John Duran, personality-wise, that he doesn't like. You know, I've heard whispers that a little bit of lateness.
He's volatile, Adrian.
You know, he's an outspoken player. He is a let's just go inverted commas. He's a character, John Duran, and some managers don't want those kind of characters in their dressing room, and I think that is the case here with Villa.
Don't think Mikel Arteta always wants those kind of characters, does he?
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why we're going for Watkins and not Duran.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? So what are the options, do we think, then, that Arsenal should and could explore from here?
I don't think there's many in this month, this window now. I just think there's so little
left.
time. Again, it's trying... Because clubs know that Arsenal need a centre-forward, as do loads of other clubs. So the price goes up. And, I mean, Sesko was spoke about. I got a little bit excited about that, but then that looked like it's happening now. So I generally think Arsenal, unfortunately, this window are going to have to bypass all these options. Because as Adrian was saying there, can you imagine the outcry at Villa if John Duran left and Watkins? I mean, and especially now they've qualified for the Champions League as well. That's never happening. Regardless how much Arsenal bid now for Watkins, it's not happening. I just don't think it's happening. So I just think Arsenal are going to have to cope now between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm still optimistic we're going to do something. And the reason why it's all going to happen probably from this weekend, the European games all sort of ended this week and they will end. And I think clubs will know where they are, what their budgets are. Are they going to be close to qualifying for next season or not? Do they reshape their team as starting now by bringing funds in? And so you're going to find out who's available as of right now. You wouldn't do anything while you're still in Europe and still playing. So I still think there may be something out there that we all go for. I'm not sure what it is, but I think we all agree we need something.
Yeah.
We need something.
I'll be staggered if Arsenal don't sign a forward, and a really good, high-profile forward, because the window is ajar. Like, literally. Obviously, the window is open, but the window of opportunity is there. The Premier League isn't done. Let me tell you, it's not done, OK? And nor is the Champions League. We know a bit of the pathway. We'll have a clearer idea at the end of this week. But Arsenal have a chance to win trophies this season, big trophies. And hand on heart, I don't know if we can do it without reinforcements. So I just think we have to.
What do you think of Evan Ferguson? Because that's the one that people have asked me about and said, do I think he'd be the right fit on loan?
It's a numbers acquisition rather than a game changer, is it? Based on form. I really like him.
Yeah.
I really like him. I think he's got the makeup to become a top player, but his career is obviously stagnated. And we've brought in a player in Raheem Sterling whose career is stagnated, hoping for the best. Hasn't happened. Would that happen with Evan Ferguson? I don't think Evan Ferguson's enough for Arsenal to take the step they need. Perfect, personally. I just hope they can find a little bit of extra money from behind the sofa, don't you, boys? Because I just believe that this team is excellent already, but that without one more forward at least coming in of a high calibre, I don't know if we do have what it takes to win trophies this season.
Well, very quickly then, on another transfer, 18-year-old Aiden Heaven has decided to sign for Manchester United. Clive, is this a blow?
Well, I think we all know the youngsters we want to keep, and I think we're going to keep those, and that's the most important thing. I'm not dismissing his talent. I did see him in the summer, actually, and he's a lefty centre-back. I think he believes he's a midfielder, and so there's a little bit of conflict there. He's a good player. He's a good player. But what we're talking about now is you're trying to jump from the academy to the Champions League. And not many people can do that. We started this conversation about Ethan Nwaneri. He is the best player of his age in the country. They don't come along every 2 minutes, right? So he's doing that for his England age group team as well. So now he's in the Arsenal first team, there and thereabouts. That's a special thing. And so Aiden Heaven's going to have a different development path. He needs to go somewhere and play. That's his choice. I'm not sure I'd have chosen that club, to be honest. I like the idea of him going to Germany and really getting some exposure there. But who knows what's behind that deal, right? I don't want to say too much, but who knows what's behind that deal? None of us want to play for free, do we? So, so there you go.
Look, basically, I haven't seen, loads of him. The bits I've seen, he's fine, but I'm not bothered, really. If he wants to be at Manchester United rather than Arsenal, good luck to you. Yep.
So, let's look ahead to Manchester City on Sunday. And joining us now is City fan Stephen McInerney. Stephen, welcome to Inside Gooners. How are you feeling after last night?
It was tumultuous. We made it hard work of it, but we're through. We're welcomed by Bayern or Real Madrid, so that's not the icing on the cake that we needed. But yeah, it was good to see City get the result after a pretty poor first 45 and turn it around, so I'm happy about it.
So the last time Arsenal played City, the Premier League landscape was very different. But do you still expect there to be a needle in this game on Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a history between these two clubs now over the past few years, especially given the ferocious ending to the previous game. So I think Arsenal, understandably, look at Manchester City, Arteta with that connection as well, and lots of the players, of course, as a sort of a barometer of where they wanted to be or needed to be for such a long time. So that is still going to play on the players' minds. I'm expecting it to be a ferocious game. Not necessarily sure how good the quality will be, because I think it might be a little bit too messy. But yeah, I think Arsenal and City, they understand each other so well. And I think there's a bit of bad blood there. And given the stories of each other's seasons, yeah, it could make the game quite memorable, I reckon.
Where exactly are Manchester City right now? Because they had that big result against Ipswich and everyone thought they were back. Then it was disappointing against PSG, the 4-2 in the Champions League. It's almost week to week with Manchester City. We're used to seeing them for a prolonged period, play week in, week out, play really well. Where exactly are they? Because even last night there were a few struggles as well.
I think City has sort of just found a lot of confidence back, but I think the issues that led to that sort of decline around the winter months, we're still pretty cold in it, so still into fair. But I think the issue that led to that was the midfield not really being capable. Now, I think we've had a few players back into form, the likes of Foden and so on. And last night, of course, like John Stones was available, which helped massively. Haaland scored a few goals. And I think because we've had some good results, the quality that we've got, going forward has been enough to win a few games. But I think ultimately the situation that led to that is still there. I think Guardiola came out after the game last night and was brutally honest when he said all the teams we've got to play, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, Brighton, they're all so much better than us. Miles better, he said, on the transition. And I think that problem is down to Gundogan, Kovacic, Bernardo, De Bruyne, all being 30 plus, some of them very much in the twilight of their careers. So I think that's where City are at. The form is okay, but I think there's quality there clearly still with City, but I think the midfield weaknesses are still very much there in the way that football's changed with so much aggression in midfield. So that's where we're at, And when we played PSG, we struggled because their quality in midfield, and that's where City could come against Arsenal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about the transition side of things. I think PSG had a lot of speed, didn't they, on the day, and that they can move down the sides, and that's a challenge. I think defensive stability, I think it's improving with John Stones. Do you think you can cover enough in your back line with Guardiola, Stones, Akanji and Nunez? Is that going to be strong enough for you on the day, do you think?
We sort of played the treble system last night, and it sort of cast my mind back to Pete Kyle Walker, Diaz, Ake there, and I realised it's not quite as solid, if I'm being honest, these days. It was a horrible blast of nostalgia, but there is quality there, obviously. John Stones was remarkable last night. He doesn't play much, but when he does play, he just shows just how good he absolutely is. Akanji is a treble when he can be absolutely brilliant. He's always been up and down because of injuries and fitness. If we'd had Diaz and Ake available for this, my confidence levels would be vastly higher. Yeah. Fact of the matter is, we've got a guy who signed as a midfielder, played there as a left winger, and now is a makeshift right back, playing at right back. Nunez good going forward, but as you saw for the goal for Bruges last night, can't defend for toffee, that guy, unfortunately. And then Vardiel likes to go forward, so the defence isn't strong. It just isn't. There's some quality there, but not necessarily in the way that would align to a solid defence. Teams score against us. Everyone scores against us. So I'd be surprised if Arsenal don't, and we're not particularly good at defending crosses or defending the box either. I saw some stats and we're the worst in the country by some way, actually. So that's where my concerns are. A lot of it comes from the midfield being too weak ahead of it. You know, like they just don't stop counters, so you've got a whole forward line running at the back line as opposed to the midfield covering. So that's where the issues are. Once again, if the injuries weren't there with Ake and Diaz, and if Walker hadn't disappeared mid-season, was anything close to his best, it might be a different story. But it is what it is. We signed the young lads to the new signings, and I'm not going to cry over it. We've done all right over the past few years, so I'm pretty relaxed. But we'll see how he goes against Arsenal.
Clive, while Stephen is here, coming into this game as favourites, we are Arsenal, which isn't actually normal against City. Yeah, it's not usually normal. But will we see a slightly different approach to the cagey games that we've recently played with City?
No, both coaches respect spaces on the pitch. They will control central areas. I think City did something useful with their fullbacks. They're pushing them on. And they're going to them sometime off first phase. I'm thinking, OK, I'm looking at those spaces in behind those fullbacks really with my eyes bright and saying, can we get in there? But also, they're going to defend by distances, by staying close together and making sure if we do turn the ball over, they can win it back. But we've got to be able to get out quickly, get out of the central areas, out to wide areas and travel. I'm not buying it, mate. City are a good side. They're a good side and they don't like Arsenal. They're going to put on their Sunday best for us. I'm not buying it. It's going to be a tight game.
Yeah, on that fullbacks, I think tactically, they're taking a lot of risks at the moment. With the two fullbacks playing high, they've effectively got 5 up front. With the 2 City midfielders in between the centre halves. And they're slow.
Yeah.
And that is the area from turnovers where Arsenal can really hurt them in this game. So, yeah, look, we'll see how it pans out.
Darren, Arsenal haven't lost to City in the past 4 meetings. Does that give you confidence?
Yeah, it does, but again, it's City. You just don't know what you're going to get. I thought tactically Arsenal was spot on when they obviously 10 men behind the ball made it really difficult for them. And you always remember what happened that last game, and I think for Arsenal players, they remember how that game ended, Haaland's behaviour, the way that he was kind of throwing himself about the pitch. I think you remember that as players, and ultimately, even though you don't need that added incentive, it's always going to be there because you're going to be looking at me in that tunnel thinking, OK, I remember what you did, what you were saying. So just from that standpoint alone, I expect Arsenal to go out there, start really fast, put them on the back foot. And I think Arsenal have got more energy than Manchester City. Yes, Manchester City have got technically very, very good players, but they are above 30, some of these players, Kovacic, Gundogan, De Bruyne, to play 2 intense games. Because this Club Brugge game, even though they won it, it took everything last bit out of them to get over the line to make sure they qualified for the latter stages. Arsenal almost, I won't say coasted past Girona, but they were more conserved rather than Manchester City, and that might play its part as well.
Stephen, back to you. Does this game mean a lot to you as a fan?
Yeah, it's City versus Arsenal. Absolutely, it does. I think it's weird to sit here and say this from the start of the season that we had, but our expectations have shifted, and now it's a race for the top 4 for City. We've got a horrible bunch of fixtures coming up with just a lot of very good sides. Once again, Liverpool, Newcastle. We can laugh at Spurs, but for us, that's a big game. We always struggle against them. We're on the right audience to laugh at Spurs here, aren't I? Let's be honest.
We always enjoy that one.
Brighton as well. So it's a game that if we can get anything from Arsenal, given the run of games we've got, it'd be huge for us because it's such a tight race for that top 4 these days. And City, the wheels fell off. So we're just sort of rescuing the season we can and trying to aim for Champions League football. And it's a game with that needle there now and that history there. So yeah, I'm absolutely up for it. My expectations change by the minute depending on what lineup I think Pep's going to conjure up. But yeah, there's a huge impact on our season potentially from this game. It won't decide it, but it definitely could help it. So I can't wait for it.
Oh, how times change, mate. How times change. We can get something off of Arsenal, we'll be happy. I mean, I'd love to hear that.
Though, after all
I'd love to hear that. Stephen, I've just got one quick question. One quick question, Stephen, before you go. On Arsenal, what is it about Arsenal that makes you as a City fan nervous ahead of this game? Whether it's tactically and individual, what is it that you're thinking, not sure about this?
Well, they're just a better side from us right now. I think structurally you're much more sound, and City's wheels have fallen off. As I said, the legs have gone, and Rodri was sort of papering over probably the age, of the midfield, and De Bruyne has slowed down a little bit, and so on. Whereas I look at Arsenal's midfield, you've got Odegaard and you've got Declan Rice and Partey. These guys can all run. These guys are very much, if not at the peak, very close. They probably are at the peak. So there's a lot more quality there. the only issue for Arsenal these days is I don't think you've got many killers up front. Doesn't mean you can't score goals, but I look at the quality the other sides have around him. I think Arsenal don't quite, without Saka there in particular. This is why Ollie Watkins would make a lot of sense for Arsenal, someone like that, because, you know, I tried to tell Arsenal fans when they sold Gabriel Jesus, great player, but yet that man ain't a killer in front of goal, and that's maybe what Arsenal lack, you know. So I think Arsenal have to win. I really believe they have to, because if they don't in this one, I think it'll be a big mental blow.
And I think we absolutely deserve to win. So thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us. Enjoy the game on Sunday. I really genuinely can't say good luck this time.
I wouldn't push it back to you, Ivan. Don't worry about it. Have a
Thank you so
season.
much. You two have a terrible continuing season. And now let's move on very quickly to the title race. I think we are still in it. Some people might say we're not still in it. Interested to see what you think. But Liverpool have Bournemouth on Saturday. Are we hopeful?
I forgot about that, actually.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Okay.
I've been so focused on the City game, and I've been so focused on the City, the Newcastle, and getting a 10-day break. Because I think if we do something in the transfer window, and then we get to that, if we beat City, Newcastle, I'm not worried. But I want to get to a point where we can rest and reset and regenerate. If we beat City and we're still close-ish, I'm with Adrian. I'm not giving up on this season at all, you know. So Liverpool, Bournemouth, I'd forgotten about that game. Bournemouth are quite good. It may not be the best time to walk into their ground, right? So, but we'll see what happens. We've got to do our job first. So.
Yeah. No, it's a big weekend, definitely, because Bournemouth are capable of beating Liverpool, but what will happen there will happen. I looked at that. I've done a piece on Bournemouth, and you know they caused Liverpool a lot of problems at Anfield earlier on in the season, even though they lost the game. So yeah, they could do something. We got to worry about our business. I'm with Stephen, actually. I think that this is kind of a must-win for Arsenal. And I expect a very aggressive approach from us. We're going to be hostile. I think we've got to be careful not to press too much, too high. You saw what happened to Chelsea, where they went high on City and they flipped it over the top to Haaland. Of course, we've got Saliba, who can handle 1v1s with Haaland. You don't want too many of those per game. So I think we might let them come on to us, and then it's about bang. Can we win the ball? Can we hurt them on the counter, on the turnover? And it's something that Arsenal have actually not done brilliantly this season. We've had 13 shots from fast breaks this season. Liverpool have had 44 because we mainly have control of the game. But I think we can be really efficient from those situations. We've just got to let them come on to us, win it, and then go and hurt them.
No, I agree. I think I'm all about the message. If Arsenal were to beat Manchester City, not only would that send the message to the rest of the league, but certainly Liverpool. I mean, as Adrian, the guys were saying there, we can't take, we don't know what's going to happen there. Bournemouth might get a result, they might not. But if Arsenal were to beat City, because I'm sure a lot of people, Liverpool included, would look at that and go, I don't know if Arsenal have got what it takes to get past City, regardless of what state City are in. If Arsenal do go and do that, then all of a sudden now it sends a huge message to the rest of the league.
Well, guys, that is all we've got time for this week. A huge thanks to Darren, Clive and Adrian. We'll see you next Thursday, and remember, trust the process.